going?
Well, I'll start with the photography, I guess. I've always liked taking pictures, but it wasn't something that I ever focused on. Ha 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 ha
I love a pun.
Hashtag apologies. But it almost coincided with when I quit my job. I just started taking a lot of pictures. Partly, I guess it really started actually the week after I quit my job. I was so upset at what had happened and what I had done that I took a week off and I literally packed up my car by myself and I pulled out of my driveway in Pasadena, California, and I hit the road and I had no idea where I was going to go. I knew I couldn't really go west because that was going to be a very short trip, but
That has limits.
yes, the ocean. So I ended up in Sedona, Arizona, and it is the most picturesque place. It is extraordinary. That whole corner of Arizona is beyond remarkable. But I started taking these pictures, and it was a time of year where the light was just crazy, and there were storms coming in and out, and there were rainbows, and I just all of a sudden with my iPhone, I took all these amazing pictures. And I mean, it was accidental. I didn't know what I was doing. And I had an iPhone and I had a little point and shoot. But the photos that I came back with were extraordinary. Like I couldn't believe that I had taken these photos and people reacted to them.
Of course, right.
And when people react to something I do, I want to do more of it.
Of course.
Yeah. So I started taking pictures and I just kept taking pictures. And ultimately, I got a DSLR camera. And I started teaching myself photography. I didn't know anything about aperture or shutter speed I didn't know anything. But what I did know was that I seemed to have an eye and I seemed to really enjoy the process and the challenge of learning something new. I went on every possible website that I could to teach myself. I got a book, but I didn't really read it. And it's actually a digital photography school out of Australia that taught me everything I know so far about photography.
That's funny.
And yeah. And I mean, I was a voracious reader of pretty much every post that is on that site. And, it's funny. I look back now on photos that I took even a year ago that I thought were amazing. And I was so proud of myself. And I'm like, oh, no, because I've learned so much
and that's good.
Yes, right. But it's really fun to see that kind of progress.
Well, if you're not ashamed of your first efforts, whether it's a podcast or a video or photographs or songwriting, if a year later you're not embarrassed by them, it doesn't mean you've grown.
Exactly. Yeah. So
if you're not embarrassed, then you should be.
Exactly.
And you don't know it yet.
Right. So it's a really, really fun process. And I've loved the challenge of learning something entirely new. And I've actually, people have asked me, why do you think that you've come on photography? And I've been like, I don't know, because it has nothing to do with what I ever did. And
good.
But then I've had people say, well, actually, it's still a creative pursuit. And even though you may not think of news journalism as a creative pursuit, the craft of radio and the craft of writing are definitely creative pursuits. So I'm kind of taking that, and instead of using my ears, I'm using my eyes to tell a story.
Right.
And those are the best photographs. The best photographs are the ones that tell stories. Even if it's a landscape, it's got to tell a story.
It has to tell a story, yes.
And so to get to my trip to Peru, and this dovetails because I think this is where I took the best photographs of my life. I don't know that I will ever take better photographs. And it's because I was telling a story, and it's because I was so emotionally affected by what I was seeing. So I went to Peru with a medical team from Oregon in early February. My father is a physician. He's an orthopedic surgeon, and he's been going for the last 6 or 7 years. He's been going down to both Peru and Ecuador with his team to fix children with deformations of their limbs. And I finally had the opportunity to go with him. And I thought, oh, it'll be great. I'll see my dad in action and it'll be a great story. So I was there for 5 days in this teeny tiny town in the middle of the Andes, dirt roads, barely plumbing, and a medical clinic that had equipment from, well, the doctors and nurses said 20, 30 years ago. So they each bring 50-pound bags of equipment, scrubs, sterilization equipment, sutures, everything you could possibly think of. They bring most of their equipment down from Oregon.
Wow.
And the first day, there were, I don't even know how many families lined up around the clinic to come in and see these doctors.
Right.
And that first day, they saw 70 children. And the reason they focus on children is because they're doing these surgeries, and the children have much longer to live with the results of this.
Right.
So they figure that it's not more bang for your buck; it's more bang for your effort, because the children have their whole lives ahead of them to walk for the first time.
Wow.
And so these children were coming in with, there were arms that were curved in ways I've never seen. There were club feet where this girl had 2 club feet. So both of her feet were pointed inwards at 90 degrees. And that's how her feet, that's how she was born. There were kids with 12 toes, so 6 on each foot. These were things that I had never seen in my life. And the reason that this happens is because these were people who were coming down from the mountains, from 17,000 feet, where they don't have running water, they don't have electricity. So they certainly do not have prenatal care,
right,
and maternity care. So these were birth deformities for all these children. And basically what I saw happen in those 5 days were minor miracles. They would not be here. It would be basic medicine here. Down there in the middle of the Andes, it was science fiction. And I watched these doctors perform surgeries that they said were not super complex. Some of them were, but for the most part, they were fairly routine. And yet they were making these children walk for the first time in their lives.
Well, the impact of that is so incredible.
It is. And I cried every day when I got back from the clinic. And I cried for 2 weeks when I got home, because I was so struck by what I call the compassion bubble. And it was this everything revolved around trying to give these children a better life, through something that, again, we take so for granted in this country. And I was also so struck by the stoicism of these families, of these children, the joy that they had despite, not having all of the things that we think are necessary for a good life in this country. And so, all of this was an experience, and I did take my audio gear, and I knew what to do with that, but I didn't really know what I was doing as a photographer, but I knew I wanted pictures. And the photos that I brought back from that trip, to this day, when I look at them, I get choked up. And so for me, that was all just kind of it was the apex of A, learning a new skill, and B, I never would have gone on that trip had I not quit my job.
Of course.
Because I would have been working,
right.
And I never would have had that experience and brought together all of the skills, both new and old, that I had to something that meant so much to me, and actually affected what I want to do with the rest of my life, which is pretty extraordinary. It all came together in those moments and in those 5 days. And I guess for me, the lesson that maybe someone else could take away from that is to, this sounds so cheesy, but follow your instinct when you think that you might want to learn something. And B, when you take risks like I did in quitting your job, in writing a book, whatever it is, it's going to open doors and windows that you have no idea are going to be there. And that, to me, is the best part about all this. I am doing stuff now, and I'm about to do something that I never, ever, ever would have imagined I would ever do. I have changed as a person, and that's pretty extraordinary and awesome.
That's huge. So talk about that change in you and where, if you can, where you're taking this. How is that experience shaping the impact that you want to have going forward?
Yeah, this is the most remarkable thing. Shortly after the book closed up, I had just gotten back from Peru, and I decided that what I really wanted to do was tell more stories like this, stories that are not being told in other parts of the world. I want to tell stories of people who are doing remarkable things. I want to tell stories of people finding solutions to problems that are intractable in other parts of the world. And what it also ignited in me was a massive wanderlust. I should say reignited, because it's always been there. And so what I'm doing is the house is currently for sale. And in mid-December, I'm leaving for Vietnam. And it'll be my first stop on a journey that I don't know when I'm coming back. I got a one-way ticket, and I am going to start there, and I hope to spend anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks in every country that I visit. And I want to find a story in each place that I visit, and I want to spend some time with that story, not just like swoop in for a day, but spend time like I did in Peru, talking with people, finding out what their lives are like, finding out where they find their joy, particularly in countries where they don't find their joy by buying things, where they don't find their joy in the latest iPhone. I want to delve into where that comes from and what that says about us and our culture. And I just want to experience something new and different. I want to go places where I'm the foreigner. And so I'm not going to be going to Europe because I look European. I may not speak the language, but I've been there and I've spent time there, and I really don't feel like even immersing yourself in a mildly different culture is not what I want to do. I want to go somewhere where I stand out, where I stick out like a sore thumb. And as a tall blonde woman, that's going to happen in Asia. So I'm going there first. I am planning to be in Cambodia, Laos, Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia. I would love to go to India. I've never been to Asia, anywhere in Asia, in the Asia Pacific. And so that's where I'm starting. I would imagine that I would end up back in South America at some point because I love it. I've been to both Argentina and now Peru, and I can actually see myself moving to Peru at some point. That's how much I fell in love with it. But I feel the need for an adventure. Like I said, I'm in my mid 40s and I've never had one. As you know from reading the book, I've had a plan my entire life. And I hit all my marks. I hit all the goals that I wanted to achieve, and I hit them very early. And I was successful beyond my wildest imagination. But now I want something different. Now I want to see what else is out there. And I want to use my skills to, again, tell the stories that aren't being told. I don't know what they are yet. I have no idea what I'm going to find. But that's where, 20 plus years of experience is going to benefit me, because I know how to ask questions and I know how to find information. So that's what I'm doing.
Now, the common thread that I hear is curiosity.
Yes.
To keep seeking and asking.
Yes.
And pursuing where those questions lead.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really exciting to do that. I mean, I did that as a journalist. I mean, that's what I do as a reporter. I'm curious and I see where the questions lead. Now the questions also involve me and where I'm going and what I'm doing. And I don't have a roadmap. I literally, I know I'm going to Vietnam first. I do not know where I'm going to go after that, because I'm going to let the stories tell me. And I have no idea what that's going to look like. And it means that I will not necessarily even know where I'm going to live when I touch down somewhere. But I guess there's a bit of a nomad in me, and I'm really excited to do that. I'm really excited. A big part of the last 3 years has been getting comfortable with uncertainty, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, and not knowing what's next. And I love that now. I mean, I look back 3 years ago, and if I had I wouldn't even ever have dreamed of doing this, right? But now I'm super excited, and sure, I'm afraid.